Okay, welcome to the first session. I'm Alison Watts and very excited to welcome you all and kick off our first session this morning. We have Sammy. She's from the Faculty of Education and she's going to tell us all about her research titled Reconciliation Without Apology, Challenging Conventional Frameworks Through Grassroots Voices in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very good morning, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. Before I begin, I would like to display this acknowledgement, paying my respect to this land and its all elders. This is the title of my presentation today. As you can see here, this study is about the ethnic reconciliation process in Sri Lanka, and of course this was a broader study, but for this presentation purpose I have selected a small part to discuss with you today. So I'll be discussing with you about the grassroots people's perspectives on ethnic reconciliation in Sri Lanka, and also how these perspectives challenge the dominant narratives in existing peace building and reconciliation scholarship. So this is the outline of my presentation. Let me begin by giving a bit of background to my study. I hope you may have heard sometimes Sri Lanka is a multi-ethnic country in Indian Ocean, and this is how our ethnic mix looks like. As you can see here, the ethnic mix is dominated by majority Sinhalese, and the largest minority group is Sri Lankan Tamils. Of course, Sri Lanka is a richly diverse country in terms of linguistically, ethnically and culturally. However, this diversity has offered us both positive and negative consequences throughout the period. So you can see here how the conflict profile looks like in Sri Lanka. It ranges from non-violent movements to extremely violent civil conflicts, prolonged civil conflict. So, however, in this study, my focus is on this prolonged civil war that was happened between majority Sinhalese and Tamil separatist group called as LTTE. You can see here some of the important milestones when it comes to Sri Lanka's civil war and its aftermath peace building and reconciliation stages. So, of course, after experiencing approximately 30 years of direct violence in the country, in 2009, the civil war was officially ended with the war victory of the government, and then the government started its peace building and reconciliation efforts. So, the Sri Lanka's government's peace building and reconciliation efforts are often debated and often criticized by international organizations and individual researchers to a great extent. Of course, due to pointing out both positive and negative aspects of the existing ongoing peace building and reconciliation process. However, all those happened because of its unique approach. The Sri Lankan government has taken kind of a unique approach in terms of its peace building and reconciliation. Say for an example, the government started its peace building and reconciliation without having any negotiated peace agreement between antagonistic parties. So when it is kind of a abnormal situation when it comes to the other global context who have gone through similar situations. However, because of these unique features, many researchers have started to discuss about this unique nature of Sri Lanka's peace building and reconciliation approaches, but especially focuses on the political processes and the institutional challenges and the other formal mechanisms and things like that. But when referring to the past literature, I noticed that these past studies have tend to overlook the ordinary people's viewpoints or their perspectives, especially the people in war-affected areas, how they experience this unique approach and how they interpret this unique approach. That part has been usually overlooked by the past researchers, so I identified it as my research gap, and by this study I tried to contribute up to some extent to fill that research gap. So in this context, I have set these two research questions for my study. Basically, those are my research objectives. Also, I wanted to see how the ordinary people in war-affected areas in Sri Lanka perceive the term ethnic reconciliation, and also to understand how these ordinary people's perspectives reflect or diverge from the other dominant narratives already established in the global peace building and reconciliation scholarship. So that's what my purpose here in this presentation, and that's all about the background, of course. If I quickly move on to the literature part, so I'm not going to explain one by one, just to give you an overview how I have conducted my literature review. I firstly reviewed some key concepts like ethnicity, ethnic reconciliation, ethnic conflict and things like that. And again, I also looked into some empirical research findings that are specifically focused on Sri Lankan context, its peace building and reconciliation aspect. And here I want to highlight you something, that is, I also referred the literature how the other countries who have gone through similar situations, having similar kind of ethnic clashes and things like that, how they have defined the term ethnic reconciliation in their own context. So in that case, I came up with these kind of definitions from other countries like South Africa, Indonesia, Nepal, Sierra Leone, and context like that. Here you can see I also noticed that when defining the term ethnic reconciliation, all of them have gone through some sort of common stream of ideologies and ideas and concepts in defining the term. Especially, most of the definitions have been centered around these key themes like apology, forgetting, forgiving, healing, and things like that. So, then let me move on to my methodology and philosophical background part. So I'll present in this, using this research onion framework presented by Sondas et al. So my research is basically grounded on interpretivist research paradigm, and I'm following inductive reasoning approach. You know, this is a qualitative study, and I have followed the phenomenological analysis as my research strategy and used in-depth interviews as my data collection tool, a technique. Something about participant recruitments and sample profile is given here. Of course, this is more like a pilot study, I would say a pilot study. So sample size is small, but since I'm doing in-depth interviews, I hope it is not a big deal. The sample represented all the main ethnic groups like Sinhalese, Tamils and Muslims in Sri Lankan context, and I used both convenience and purposive sampling techniques in recruiting my sample, and used inductive thematic analysis when analyzing my data. So this is how the sample profile looks like, and I'll quickly move on to the data analysis process. So in this case, as I told you, I used inductive analysis approach. I followed kind of a bottom-up approach in analyzing my data. So I started with fieldworks and gradually stepped up to theory building or the concept development stage. So in this case, I firstly transcribed my interview responses and then identified these codes, deductive, inductive and vivo codes out of the interview responses. And by looking at the similarities and the convergencies of each of those codes, I came up with some important themes before defining the ethnic reconciliation with regard to the Sri Lankan context. So you can see here, these are the 4 key themes emerged out of the interview responses. Sometimes my respondent, when I ask how they define or how they perceive the term ethnic reconciliation, they sometimes pursue ethnic reconciliation as a situation where social unity and togetherness exists, or sometimes as a situation where coexistence is ensured, and also as a state where justice and equality is ensured and things like that. So building on this understanding, if I go a little further deeply one by one, when it comes to the first theme, the unity and togetherness, you can see here some of the interview responses are abstracted, and out of these responses, my participants often talked about these important phrases like we feeling, social harmony and unity, then sense of belonging and things like that. So I categorized those identified codes into deductive and inductive codes, and I understood that when they are defining the term ethnic reconciliation, they want to say me something about social unity and togetherness. And when it comes to the second theme, that's about the coexistence, these are some important interview responses I have abstracted here. So when I asked about the ethnic reconciliation, they told me the phrases like tolerating difference of the others, mutual understanding, having healthy social relationships and things like that. So I understood that by looking at the convergencies and the similarities behind these codes, that they mean coexistence in terms of ethnic reconciliation. So when it comes to the third theme or the third idea, that is about justice and equality. So my respondents gave me the phrases like equal treatments in the society, and everyone should be treated equally, and no ethnic based discriminations. We need due respects and due recognitions and things like that. So by looking at the similarities behind these phrases and wordings, I understood that they are giving kind of a meaning like justice and equality in terms of ethnic reconciliation. So when it comes to the last theme I derived out of the interview responses, that is, they define the ethnic reconciliation as a situation where there is no any politically led ethnic disputes. So of course I couldn't identify this kind of codes from the previous literature. So no deductive codes were found. I understood all the ideas as newly emerged from my fieldwork responses. So I categorized all of them under the inductive codes, and as per my respondents, they mean ethnic reconciliation as a situation where there is no any political driven ethnic segregations. So thank you. So if I give you a quick look at or a summary of my findings behind the interview process. So my respondents were talk about these phrases like justice, equality, coexistence and no political driven clashes and things like that. At the same time, they were silent about the mainstream or the dominant reconciliation narrative related concepts like truth, apology, forgetting, forgiving, healing and things like that. However, based on the responses I got out of my fieldwork activities, I developed these operational definitions for the term ethnic reconciliation to reflect the ideas in Sri Lankan context. So this slide shows you how unique, how I found the unique perspectives and how the findings are diverge and reflect the other context ideas and things like that. My respondents also talk about some common ideas already recorded in other contexts. At the same time, they came up with some new and unique perspectives to the Sri Lankan context as well. So as the conclusion, I would say that this study revealed some unique perspectives when in terms of when we are defining ethnic reconciliation. And also my respondents were silent about some dominant narratives about already quoted definitions and concepts in other global contexts who have gone through similar situations. However, these unique perspectives reflect the unique and contextual social realities in our own context. So it reflects the available structural inequalities and cultural violence and things like that. Especially I told you that we didn't have any formal peace agreement within our country, so that the concepts like apology, healing, forgetting, forgiving, those kind of concepts have not been internalized into the ordinary people's mind, so that they define this term based on their own day-to-day social realities and contextual matters. So I would like to conclude that when it comes to meaningful peace building and reconciliation, it's always context dependent and culturally driven. So we cannot have one size fits all models in terms of peace building and reconciliation. We all have to acknowledge the contextual differences and social realities in different post-war societies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sami. A very powerful presentation, well done.
Thank you very much.
Comments and questions from the audience?
Yeah, thank you so much for the beautiful presentation. I loved the overview of the events that happened that led you to this research. I'm really curious to know if you were surprised by any of your results. Did you anticipate what you got, or were you surprised by what you learned?
Of course, I was surprised. I expect at least some sort of ideas that have already reported by the people in other countries, other parts in the world. But surprisingly, our people, they didn't talk about apology, they didn't talk about forgetting, forgiving, or nothing like that. So they, of course, they came up with the ideas that they are everyday social life matters related things. If even though I asked about how do you define or how do you perceive the term ethnic reconciliation, they came up with their own reality.